Hello, I am Robbie the Toolman Taylor, and this is my assistant, Dave Borland. No, I'm kidding. I'm Robbie. Hey, what's up? We have this amazing set that we built over here, and Dave is, helping out with all the recording and stuff. So actually, today we're gonna use him as your guys' representation as I teach him how to build a cool hoverboard circuit that you guys can use with. Doesn't have to be a hoverboard, but you've seen the skate park we built together. Check out Random Architects in your club tab, by the way. Join if you haven't. And you can do like a crazy witches broom thingy for Halloween or anything really.
He's like, well, I'm Dave, and well, I'm here with Robbie. I'm not really much of a circuit person. I'm not really much of a creative person, but I can copy the hell out of some stuff. Anyway, Robbie's going to show me how to make this skateboard, and we'll see how it goes. To the stage.
To the stage. All right. So first of all, I guess, Dave has some understanding about like circuits, but I think like much more basic than what I do, right? But you do know some things. So the first thing that you need to know about circuits if you actually want to get into CV2 is the if chip. That is basically used on everything because the thing that makes it work is just a question. If this happened, then do this. And if this doesn't happen, then do something else. So in reality, what's going on is that we are making like a Y in the road. We are turning, this information that we have going on. If you think about circuits kind of like an electrical current, we have a switch that is either going to let the current through or not let the current through. Or direct it, basically, because you can have an if chip that basically runs all the time, either on one side or the other side, right? So anyway, that's kind of what we are going to use mostly for this build. And obviously an event receiver, which has certain predetermined settings that you can have. And one of them is the 30 hertz. 30 hertz just means that it's sending a signal every 30 times per second. A lot of things that you guys might know is like screens that run at 60 hertz. And actually the game can run at 60 hertz. The circuits can run at 60 hertz, but it is made that way so that it doesn't crash or it doesn't overheat, which is what happens when you have too many things running at the same time. And then your system can't handle it and it just, kind of is kaput. So yep, 30 hertz is kind of like the safe middle ground that Rec Room decided that we can run things at. And to begin with, and Dave made that amazing skateboard that I'm sure you guys have seen at the skate park. So you guys need to get yourself a prop. It can be anything. Here is a little sneak peek to Recon 2022. Get it while you can, while it's hot, while product lasts. I don't know. Get your pre-orders in.
Hopefully it'll be a limited time event or a limited time item.
Yeah, I can't promise you guys that it's gonna be there, but Dave is submitting it, so hopefully you guys can get it because it's really cool. And so you guys gotta get yourself a prop. That's the first step, basically. It can be anything. This is an amazing looking skateboard. It doesn't have to be. Build, whatever you can and whatever you want. Again, it can be a broomstick, it can be an airplane, it can be literally anything. It can be a orange rectangle for all it matters. Yeah, let's put on the board. We have here our little black wall, and we're gonna start by pulling out that if chip that we said we would. And I think I'm just gonna kind of like explain, and Dave here is gonna be the one bringing out all the interesting stuff so you guys can see. All right, so we have an if chip, right? Runs on a condition. What is our condition, right? So something has to trigger this. And funny enough, what we're actually gonna use is literally a trigger handle.
Oh, the board is
Okay, so another tip that I will give you guys, because see, the trigger handle will travel with you, right? It's something you grab with your hand. So one thing you can do is exactly what Dave just did, is you can click configure on the board of your item and then detach it from it. That means that the trigger handle can travel, you know, wherever it wants, and the board, the chip will stay right here next to the other ones instead of in front of your face if you have the ability to see components without the maker pen on. All right.
that is under the configure attachment mode. Detach.
Attachment mode and then detach. Yeah, they actually changed it recently. So before it was just a toggle, but now there's 4 different settings. Follow, which is the usual one. There's detach, which is the one we will most of the time use for almost everything, literally.
I'm trying to get it to stay there and freeze, but it just doesn't want to.
One thing you can do is if you move it up and then you don't let go of the move, and then what you do is go to your configure tool and then open it again, and then instead of changing to the freeze tool, just toggle frozen, and that will make it stay there.
Yeah, because every time I toggle the freeze tool, it just dropped the move.
Yeah, exactly. That's a funny thing that happens when you change tools, but toggling frozen also helps, and trigger handles are a terrible thing to deal with. All right, so we need to attach the board to the trigger handle, right, in a way, and for that we're gonna go the CV2 route. Instead of a clamp, we're gonna make a CV2 clamp, which is basically a piston.
Piston. Piston.
All right, so the funny thing about the piston is that as every other item in its category, right, like what people would call a gadget most of the times, it comes with a circuit board. And a circuit board means that you see this one board, but inside of it, if you were to click edit, every input it has and every output it has is routed through actual CV2 chips that do things. And some of those chips can only be spawned inside certain items. So they will have, for example, a projectile launcher, right? That's something that a lot of people have been using lately. Will have an event that is on hit that doesn't exist anywhere else except inside the projectile launcher's chip. So what we need to do to basically turn this into CV2 quote-unquote clamp is you will edit, well, you will not edit, you will configure the piston and then scroll all the way down. And then basically there's a red button that says remove all board contents.
Delete object board?
I mean, what? Did they change it? Yes, I don't know. Try that.
Confirm delete object board. The object board is gone.
Oh, wow. Okay, see, I just learned something new. Before you had to like basically remove everything inside the board. I didn't know you could just get rid of it entirely. So that's a new thing. All right, cool. And the other thing that you can do is configure the piston max travel distance that usually comes out at 5 meters to something like 0.1. Because if you put it at 0, every time you reload the room, it's gonna come back with that green laser. But if we put it at like 0.1, now it's gone. So you don't see that green line that was coming out of it anymore. And just like a clamp, the piston without any functions has the only advantage that you can wire things to the body itself, and then you can wire things to the little wooden part. Well, I say it's a wooden part, but I guess it looks kind of metallic. So the trigger handle is the thing you grab. So you gotta think about it like a lot of people refer to it as like mother and child connections. So the motor connection would be to the body of the piston, and that would be that trigger handle. But don't do that yet, because if you do it, it's gonna probably drop. You have to unfreeze it to be able to wire it. And then the one thing that we can do is, once we position our skateboard relative to where the trigger handle is wire it to that metallic part. So let's say we'll put it, I don't know, just for example's sake, we'll leave it here. And then with your connect tool, you're going to wire this to your skateboard. Oh, wow. Okay, I see the
pivot points up
yeah,
here.
you see the pivot point up there, exactly. I was expecting to see the line, but see the wire always goes to the pivot point. So there we go. All right, so we have these, and that's basically all you need, right? Now we need the chips to actually do stuff, right? So what we are gonna need is a velocity add. There's two chips that are very, very similar. One is called velocity set, and one is called velocity add. The velocity set is instantaneous, and it kind of feels awkward in a lot of the situations that you might actually want to have like a rev up, you know, like the speed actually ramps up to a point, and it also frees you to get even more speed than the one you're actually getting from the circuits. So in case you're like dropping or falling, or there's another external thing that is giving you even more speed, you are free to obtain or to reach that speed. With velocity set, it basically puts you at that speed and it makes it a constant. So again, a lot of times it doesn't feel very natural. Right. So then one thing that we need to do here is start plugging it in and see what happens, right? So on our trigger handle, we have the primary action press, which is the trigger. Everybody knows that. The thing with the trigger is that even though we have a thing that says primary action is held, so that means that you are constantly holding the trigger, the action pressed is not a constant, right? So even if you hold it down for 2 minutes, the signal only comes out once, right? So you would need to press it and press it and press it and press it in order to keep getting speed, which is what we are trying to do for our hoverboard. So we're gonna connect, is the primary action held to our condition. That's the first thing that we're gonna do.
The primary action is held. We're going to change that to condition. So right there.
Yes. So this is basically the gate that we're having here is, are we holding the trigger down or not? That's literally the thing we're asking, right? And so what's going to happen is, if we are holding down the trigger, that means then. So if the answer is a yes to your question in your if, then you want the then. If your answer, the answer you are looking for, because sometimes the answer you're looking for is a no, right? It doesn't have to be strictly a yes. Then you will plug to the else. But since we want the trigger to be held down, we're going to connect the then to the velocity add.
So basically what we're saying is the condition of, if the action is held, then add velocity.
Then add velocity, exactly. All right, and way to think about circuits like this is, all right, now we kind of know what's happening, right? Then look at the chip that we have over here and then figure out what else do we need. So first of all, we need a target, right? What are we adding velocity to? And do we need extra chips or not? In this case, we don't, because the trigger handle is already telling us the player that is holding the trigger handle at the bottom of the chip, right? So getting the player, or ourselves holding the trigger handle, is already there. So we can just go ahead and plug in player to target, and that is going to tell the velocity add that what we want to add velocity to is the player holding the trigger handle. All right, then the speed on meters per second is something that you guys can play around with. I think that something like 8 meters per second is pretty good because it feels faster than running, but it's not stupid fast to the point where like it doesn't really, start making any sense. So we can set that to 8. And then the one thing, for example, of the maximum speed, which is the one, for example, I talked about earlier about velocity set. That one doesn't have a maximum speed because it doesn't let you, we already mentioned that it's a constant. So on this one, if we're going to have the max speed, the normal speed at 8 meters per second, then we might want to increase the maximum speed to something like 12 or 15. And that just gives you a lot of like overhead so that, again, if you build something in your room or if you have any trigger volumes or something that we can look at some other time to give you even more speed, then you can actually get to that speed. All right. So the other thing that we need here.
Tool. I was just going to mention that I was using the connect tool to click on the numbers there, and that allowed me to change the value.
Right. So yeah, you can click on whenever you have these little toggles outside chips, you can use the same thing you use to wire. You just click on it and it will prompt you to put down a number or a value. Sometimes it can be a color, for example. All right. So then the one thing we're missing here is direction. So where are we going to, right? So for this one, on these 3 chips that we have, and again, this is a very simple project, so hopefully you guys can, understand it as a basis to things that we'll do in the future. We don't have anything that gives you direction. So there are a lot of chips that gives you directions, and directions in the game are with vectors that are basically the direction between 2 points, right? Where is something basically looking at? So where are we looking at? Like if you understand north, south, east, west, for example, if I look to my left, I would consider myself, I'm looking, let's say west, right? Just in an example. But it's literally like, think about it as looking towards. So we're going to get a chip that has the name get forward vector. And that just basically means that forward is wherever a person, an item, or something is looking towards, that's your forward vector. It's like, where are your eyes pointing to? And this doesn't have to be just for people. This happens to also work for things like the trigger handle, because every object in Rec Room comes with the same kind of coordinates. Because if you can see on a little cube, right? If you spawn a cube and you are able to see the 3 little lines that come out of it, it's always a green line that points up, a green line that points up, a blue line
points right.
Yeah, a red line that points right and a blue line that points forward. So every Rec Room item has that one blue line, and that's what we're looking for. So we're gonna take that from the trigger handle, because our get forward vector has only like a pass-through. It doesn't really do anything. It just pulls information for us from somewhere, right? So we are prompting it to, from the trigger handle, give us a vector that is a direction. And we're going to put that vector into the direction of our velocity at. Now, like I explained to you before, the primary action only works once, even if you hold the trigger. So what we need, and what a lot of people forget, is event receiver. The event receiver, like we mentioned before, has a lot of presets, and one of them happens to be the 30 Hertz, which is actually the one we're going to use. So you guys can pull out an event receiver, then click configure on it with your maker pen, and on the list menu that you get, just select the one that says 30 HC, and that's the 30 hertz that you will often hear mention of. Now, instead of the action press, we're going to use that and plug it into our if chip. That means that our question on the if chip of is this trigger handle trigger being pressed is being asked now 30 times per second instead of just every time you press the trigger. That way, if we keep the trigger held, because the trigger held is a constant, then that event receiver is going to make us get velocity 30 times per second. So now, a good thing that you can do is with your freeze tool, you unfreeze the trigger handle and then just change to the connect tool. It's not going to fall yet. And then connect it to the piston we're using as a clamp. Then as soon as you let go, that's it, But now you can grab that, Dave, and check out, we can check out how it works.
Oh, it's not set for grabbable.
Oh.
It is grabbable. There we go.
Ooh, okay, and he's gone. But the point is that this is a very, very simple circuit that it can also be very, very fun, right? It will make you fly through, because you can also, whoa, I just went through the wall. It can also make you fly. This is why I call it a hoverboard. If you check out our skate park map, Skate and Destroy, we have like very complex circuits working on those skateboards. There's like a whole gravity system, there's a jump system, there's a cooldown system, there's a rotator involved to make a kickflip. There's a lot of things. And that's why I thought this would be a first great project, because this is a really quick 5-chip basis that you can just add more stuff to, right? For example, on the ones at Skate and Destroy, we have emitters that do like lines of wind that go trailing behind you. We have an audio player that makes it sound like you are skating. We have a lot of things plugged in and connected to the same piston, by the way, as a clamp. So everything is there just together as like a little package. But this is the basis that you gotta start with, because with this, you can make anything fly. You can start adding your sounds. You can start adding maybe, rotations. You could go as crazy as you want. And, again, doesn't have to be a skateboard. Just want to mention it. So what did you think? Because I think a lot of people that haven't tried to do any circuitry yet, they think that a lot of these things are super complicated, and a lot of really fun things are very, very, very simple. I mean, just 5 chips.
Pretty surprising myself. I mean, I knew of the mechanic, but yeah, I didn't realize it was that simple either.
And I think that's a lot of the learning about CV2 is literally getting to know more chips. I think about it kind of like vocabulary. When you start learning a language, it can be an actual language or a programming language or something. You might have, you might know something about physics or about mathematics or geometry or whatever you're trying to do. But if you don't know the language, you don't know how to do things. And with chips, is like, you don't know which chip to use because you don't know that chip that you actually need exists. And a lot of times they are there already. So hopefully we'll go through some more of these ones and, eventually start making a bit more complicated stuff. But this is a good start. Remember, event receivers, forward vectors, always pointing forward, because, who wants to go backwards, man? And a piston as a clamp. Stop using CV1. It's in the past.
It's called Legacy for a reason.
And I think we will save this as a really simple invention for free that you guys can download if you want to try it out without making yourselves one. And yeah, I don't know. This is our first video too, so don't be too harsh. Leave a like, whatever. Join the club. Subscribe to Dave. His ad name is Satcom Cook. You can find him on RecNet, and my ad name is RNDM Racing, just like this YouTube channel. And I don't know. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next time.